Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Warren and West Morris Counties, I am pleased to welcome you to our virtual forum for the Mount Olive Board of Education. My name is Megan Davis, and I am the chair of the Warren and West Morris Counties League. At this time, I would like to introduce Pat Robinson from the New Jersey Hills Media Group, who is our co-sponsor for tonight's event.
Okay, Megan, thank you. Good evening. My name is Pat Robinson, and I am editor of the Mount Olive Chronicle, part of the New Jersey Hills Media Group of 14 local newspapers in and around Morris County. We've been the source of independent news for decades. Our mission is to provide in-depth and balanced coverage of all things applying to Mount Olive. As a first this year, we have converted to nonprofit status under our parent company, the locally owned Corporation for New Jersey Local Media. The group was founded to ensure the survival and growth of our newspapers so that we may sustain and improve upon our tradition of providing quality, fact-based, and balanced local news coverage from trained journalists at a time when the news outlets are disappearing. We are honored to partner with the League of Women Voters to co-sponsor this forum as we share a common mission to inform and engage residents in the local issues affecting our everyday lives. So again, thank you, and I'm turning it back to Megan.
Thank you so much, Pat. Before I introduce our moderator this evening and she introduces our candidates, I'd like to say a few more words about the League. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. Membership in the League is open to people 16 years of age and older of all gender identities and political affiliations. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League. The League is committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the positions candidates take on those issues. The League envisions a democracy where everyone has the right, the knowledge, the confidence, and the opportunity to participate. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. With over 100 years of experience, the League is one of America's most trusted and oldest civic organizations. Any use of the League name or footage from this forum in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including internet, social media, cable, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. We encourage everyone to go to vote411.org, a one-stop site for information on all aspects of voting in New Jersey, with information about candidates up and down the ballot. You can find Warren and West Morris Counties League on Facebook and the New Jersey State's League's website at lwvnj.org. All forums conducted by New Jersey Leagues can be viewed on the New Jersey website and vote411.org. This forum is being live streamed on the Warren and West Morris Counties YouTube channel and will be available for viewing there afterwards. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Margot Fisher. Margot is a League-trained moderator who is not from this voting district. Margot will introduce the candidates and outline the format for this evening.
Thank you, Megan, and it's quite an honor to be invited to moderate this forum. I'd like to thank the candidates, not only for participating in the forum, but for being willing to put themselves forward for public office like this. I'd also like to thank the audience for participating in this very important discussion. I just want to briefly go over the rules and the procedures for the forum, and I want everyone to understand that the purpose of these rules is to ensure that all of the candidates have a fair and equal chance to hear their opinions heard by the public. Also, we have limited time and a lot of questions, so we're going to try to keep the discussion moving along as quickly as we can. The candidates will each have 1 minute for their opening and closing statements, as well as 1 minute to respond to each question. We have a timekeeper who will cue the candidates when they have 30 seconds remaining. We will permit candidates to complete their sentences when 60 seconds are up, but out of fairness to the other candidates and respect for the audience, We will stop them if they go over. Members of the public were invited to submit questions in advance. The guidelines for the questions explained that the purpose of this forum is to hear candidates' views, not the opinions of individual voters. Questions were required to follow the league policy of being issue-related and relevant to the position being sought. We try to preserve the original wording of audience questions, but in the interests of time and clarity, we consolidate multiple questions on one topic into single questions. Unfortunately, not every question may be asked due to time constraints, but we have prioritized the questions based on what are the greatest concerns in Mount Olive. All of the candidates will have the opportunity to respond to each question, but again, in the interest of time, if a candidate feels that one or more of the other candidates have addressed the same points they would make, they are free to forego responding. However, there will be no rebuttals. Now, I'm going to introduce the candidates who have joined us this evening in alphabetical order and by group, according to whether they seek a seat for the full 3-year term or for a 1-year term to fill an unexpired term. As I'm sure the audience is aware, there are a total of 9 candidates for the Mount Olive Board of Ed. We have 3 of the 6 candidates for the 3-year terms. These are Lisa Fenton, Luis Melendez-Canedo, and Lisa Narcisse. The other 3 candidates for 3-year terms declined to participate. One, William Robinson, declined due to potential litigation involving the district. The other 2 did not give a reason. And we have 2 of the 3 candidates for the 1-year expired term. These are Dr. Anthony Giordano and Annette Mendez. The 3rd candidate for the 1-year term also declined to participate in the forum. He didn't provide a reason, but he did submit a written statement, which I will read after the candidates make their opening statements. And to make sure no one is always first or always last, we have randomized the speaking order for the candidates' opening and closing statements, and they will address audience statements in rotating alphabetical order. So, Dr. Giordano, you will be the first to give your opening statement, and please remember that this is limited to 1 minute.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank the league for hosting this. I think it's a great opportunity for all the candidates. I'd also like to thank all the candidates for participating in this. I think it's huge. I think it's very important for all of us to get our message out there to the voters of Mount Olive. Like you said, I'm Dr. Anthony Giordano. I've been on the Board of Ed for 15 plus years in Mount Olive. Out of those 15 years, my fellow board members have elected me 11 years as board president. Leadership matters. We're in trying times right now, as everyone can see as they watch our board meetings. I think my experience speaks for itself. I think we've been able to move the district forward. I've worked in this district prior. I know how bad it was, and I know how good we've become. We have to continue to keep improving. I'm a big believer in continuous school improvement. I am a sitting superintendent myself right now. I've worked every job in a school district outside of transportation, although I have my CDL to drive a van of 12 passengers or more. So I believe I'm the best candidate to fill that 1-year spot, and I appreciate all the support I can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Narcisse, your opening statement.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to hear what everyone has to say. My name's Lisa Narcisse. I've lived here in Mount Olive for about 13 years. I'm the parent of a 6th grade daughter and a senior son who's at the high school. I've been a Morris County resident my entire life. I'm a graduate of County College Morris with a degree in public administration and William Patterson University with a degree in political science. I've been on the board for about, I think it's going on 5-6 months now. I filled a spot previously. For about 18 years, I've worked in the field of employee benefits. I specialize in school districts and municipalities negotiating their benefits. I've set up the negotiation tables. I've done consulting on school boards and budgets. I understand the financial impact that we're about to face as our district is ever growing. And I believe that my expertise brings something different to the table. I also believe in mental health specialties with our students that they're facing after COVID.
Okay, and our next opening statement is from Lisa Fenton.
Hello, thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. My name's Lisa Fenton. I have been in Mount Olive for 25 years. Two of the three of my children have graduated Mount Olive. I have one a senior, so we're almost done. I feel very strongly about being in this town because it has been so good for my family. I have played lots of volunteer roles. I belong to the MOMAC group. I have a therapy, actually, I had a therapy dog. I'm working on another therapy dog that went into special needs classes. I am a crossing guard for the police in Mount Olive. And I just feel that I bring something that every family, employee, child can relate to. And I want to be their voice for this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. Thanks to the league and for my fellow candidates being here. It's nice to put a face with the name. I'm a mother of 3 children who is currently in the system. My youngest is in 1st grade. So this run for me is going to be for the long haul, no matter what. I'm going to be here forever. I hold a bachelor's degree from Montclair State University in Family and Child Life Studies with a concentration in school settings. I hold a master's certification in developmental models for autism intervention. I've been a part of education for almost 20 years. And currently right now, I work for a child resource and referral agency as their lead trainer, where I provide positive parenting solutions for parents. I also provide all of the professional development for educators, administrators, and the like for Morris County and across the state of New Jersey. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to see these questions that everyone has. And I just want to let everyone know that we all deserve a right to an equitable education. And as students and parents, we need to feel safe with our board.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Melendez-Canedo. Oh, Ms. Melendez-Canedo, could you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Luisa Melendez-Canedo, and I have lived in Mount Olive for 21 years. My husband and I have raised our 3 children in this community as they are product of the Mount Olive School District. Our school district is great, and it's a robust curriculum, sport programs, and many extracurriculars contributes greatly to the success of our students, even after they are out of our classrooms. As a committed parent, I believe it is important for parents to be involved in all aspects of their children's life, education, and activity. I have a strong belief in giving back, and I am an active member in the Mount Olive community, volunteer throughout the years. My belief is that to give when and where you can. I would love to give back to the school district, which has given my family so much. My experience as a teacher for 11 years and 20+ years in acquisition, procurement, and contract management, that would be a great addition to our school district. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry, master in labor relations, and a Juris Doctor degree. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to the questions from the audience, and I think I failed to mention in my opening statement, but it's important for the audience to know. We're going to begin with 5 questions that were provided to the candidates in advance, and we're going to ask those 5 questions first. So,
Margot,
oh, yes.
do you have the opening statement from Mr. Orzillo?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I am so sorry about that. Oh my. All right, I'm going to bring it up on screen if I may. Thank you very much, Megan. That was quite an oversight. All right, I'm going to be reading Mr. Orzillo's statement exactly as he wrote it, just so people know. And I believe it will be less than 2 minutes. So he writes, "Good evening. My name is Mark Orzillo. I'm a proud father of 3 children, Nicholas, freshman, Gabriella, 6th grade, and Michael, kindergarten, loving husband to Sophia for 19 years, and a local business owner. When it comes to Mount Olive, I am all in. I would really like the ability to bring more transparency to the board. I think it is critical that parents get more involved. This is not to cast stones, but rather to a call to rally, to become involved, to become informed, to become empowered as advocates for our children's educational journeys. Being a project manager by trade, it enables me to be transparent with customers on budgets and allows room to establish open communication. School is teaching our children, but it is still our responsibility to raise these children, and we need to make sure that the lines of raising them are not being infringed upon by the decisions, materials, curriculum, written and unwritten, and agendas that do not align with the core values of our families and community at large. I want to take a moment to recognize that despite the inevitable differences of opinion that exist, each person running represents a devotion to their children that deserves respect. I think we can all agree on that much. I hope on November 8th, you choose number 3 as the one-year position. Thank you. On behalf of Mark Orzillo. And again, my apologies for almost overlooking that, and thanks to Megan. So we will go now to question 1. This was a question that the candidates were given in advance, and our first candidate to answer will be Lisa Fenton. And the question is, what is your understanding of zero-based budgeting, and how do you feel about unbudgeted spending or moving funds from educational accounts to fund facilities projects? Ms. Fenton.
Ms. Fenton, please unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry.
Timekeeping will start from when she starts.
Thank you. I feel that zero-based budgeting is very good for the community. It allows us to see what we need and put a dollar amount to it, so it's not overspent or we don't have a heavy budget. I do feel it is really good to be able to move money from one budget to the other if there is the money to be moved. And that way, I think the finances flow very easily. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Giordano, you're next.
Thank you. So in my career now, in my superintendent's job, we do zero-based budgeting. It is the way to go. It is the only way to really, in my opinion, to budget. You're starting from zero and you're building a budget about what the needs are of the district. 95% of the budget in the district goes to salaries and benefits. So that's already on the table. So you know where you stand with that. We are a public entity. Contrary to what people believe, we always have to move accounts around because you cannot allow a public entity to go. It's not a business where you can allow them to go to zero at the end. So you can't underfund a line item. We're budgeting a year and a half in advance. It's very difficult to do that. You're always going to have, if a student for special needs needs to go out of the district that wasn't budgeted for, you're going to have that. So I think it's, people need to understand that as they're running for board, and in general public need to understand that a public entity is different than a private sector. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo?
Yes. For the benefit of the public, let's establish that traditional budgeting and zero-based budgeting are two methods used to track expenditures. Traditional budgeting only analyzes new expenditures, while zero-based budgeting starts from zero and calls for justification of all recurring expenses in addition to the new expenditures. In the zero-based budgeting board, a budgeting school administrator needs to justify expenses and drive value for the school district by optimizing costs and not just revenue. Zero-based budgeting is great benefit for our school district because it keeps all responsible individuals accountable, and all expenditures have to be explained. Improve the fiscal transparency is based in real needs and provides concrete expectation of cost, expenses, and revenue, while maximizing the return of investment of our district taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. From my understanding of zero-based, I'm going to echo what Ms. Fenton, Dr. Giordano, and Luisa just said. But what I want to add to that is that we should always think about it as program driven, right? We should look at our previous costs, really go through our purchase orders with a fine tooth comb, look at where we can make any changes, but ultimately it should always be done with the mindset on what is best for our students and what is most sensitive to our community's pockets. Unbudgeted items happen, like Dr. Giordano said. We have emergencies that occur. I understand that emergencies happen, but I would want to steer away from doing something that is unbudgeted, because that's where the community comes in and thinks that there's a lack of transparency in there because that wasn't budgeted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Narcisse.
Well, thank you. I kind of echo what everyone else said. With regards to zero-based budgeting, really, it's the individual budget is built from scratch. Each department division has to submit every item that they're going to be utilized. It's really according to the district criteria, and it's looking at the return of investment. What activities are we going to be programming? What are the needs for those activities? What are the dollar amounts? It's not just what occurred last year and repeating the budget going forward. Each year is a new year, and we look at it differently. With regards to moving money from one fund to another, as Dr. Giordano said, we can't let any of those funds go down to zero. And there are things that come up unexpectedly. Let's go back to what happened in the middle school with the mold. Funds had to be shifted around in order to cover that. That was an unexpected event. As gas prices are going up, we're budgeting a year in advance with our business administrator, and then that things are occurring and we do have to supplement for that.
Okay, I think we got everybody. Next question was, what measures do you think the Board of Education can take to help ensure that the students with disabilities receive supports and services they are entitled to? And our first speaker, if I have this right, will be Dr. Giordano.
Thank you. So my entire background is in pupil services. I started as a private school with children with autism, doing ABA discrete trial. Since then, prior to becoming a superintendent, I was the executive director of pupil services at Parsippany Troy Hills. We do in my opinion, Mount Olive, not in my opinion, the statistics, and we have the data to prove it, does a above and beyond job at providing our students with special needs the services they need. That's not to say individual parents may not agree with what their child's are being provided. I have a son, he's 20, who's graduate, with special needs throughout the district, a daughter who had a 504 plan. That is something the board, and my experience in Mount Olive, the board has taken a very succinct look at, and to make sure our children and our students are being provided with the needs they have. That's not to say that people in this community forget it's an individualized IEP team that develops those plans. And so the board has to take a step back to make sure we're not infringing upon that. Thank you.
Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yes, a survey of students' services needs based on current population receiving the services and forecasting next year's services for its inclusion in the budget will be great. In addition, it should be considered the trend in the past years of incoming new students with disability into our school district to include projection for the next school year. The student supports and services should include all kinds of needs, to include personal, academic, paraprofessionals, professional support, educational material, resources, PT, speech therapy, specialty, equipment, and any other related needs with direct impact on those students. The parents should also be included as part of the survey. Parents know their kids better than anyone and are their kids' best advocate. The parents will provide critical insight to their needs if services currently provided satisfy their student needs or additional services need to be considered in the next year. Thank you.
Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. So besides paying our instructional and one-on-one aides a livable wage that really mirrors the amount of work that they do, I really feel that we also need to give them more trainings on who they're working with, I feel like members of the child study team should absolutely meet with these aides, let them know this is what this child needs, this is what their triggers are, how are we going to handle eloping, etc. Not just say, oh, hey, hi, you're here. Okay, here's your classroom, go. Early in my career, I worked as a developmental specialist, and I received almost an entire month of training on how to ensure that I nor my client would get hurt should a meltdown occur. In addition, I had trial periods to ensure that our dynamic worked. And those are the measures that I would like to see put in place and would encourage the superintendent to follow those measures and hold him accountable.
Okay, I think everyone has had a chance to answer that question. The third question, what are your views on open data and transparency of information?
Sorry, Margot,
Oh, sorry.
Margot, I
Did
need to interrupt
I'm
again.
sorry.
Ms. Fenton needs
I'm
to
terribly
answer.
sorry. Ms. Fenton.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute, and that's okay. No problem. You know what? Everybody has said a bit what I wanted to say. Mount Olive is probably, in my opinion, one of the best places to be when it comes to special needs. We have a variety of anything you could think of that a child would need, we can provide. The one thing that I would like to see happen, and I am going to try to make that happen this year, is I believe we need more aides, more paid, higher salary for the aides, and also almost like a step level. Where are you an aide for someone who has a simple 504 versus you're an aide for someone who's totally disabled? I believe there should be steps in place for that. And we really need to look at their pay, because I think that's very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, it's a little confusing keeping track of everybody and keeping the order going. So thank you for bearing with me. The third question, I'm sorry, the fourth question, could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not? And I believe that we are starting this one with Ms. Narcisse.
Well, thank you. With regards to when it comes to board decisions, there's oftentimes that, we realize that we're individuals with voices and opinions, and we discuss those items in closed session often. But when it comes to being a united front, the board often does need to support one another in the consensus of what the final decision is for the board. We are one district, and we need to be represented in that. And we need to represent the individuals of the community, not just our own personal opinions. That's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Fenton.
So I'm going to piggyback off of Ms. Narcisse. I ditto what she said. I also sometimes do feel that if someone can prove me wrong, if my opinion is different, I always like to hear why and when. But given that, even if I don't agree and there was a vote and I lost the vote, majority rules, then I have to turn around and I have to say, okay, we're doing this and let's support everyone on how to do it the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Giordano.
Thank you. Yes, I've been on the board for 50 plus years. Earlier in my career, I went down 8-1, 7-2 a lot of the times. But when that happens, it's the consensus of the board. No one sits there and says, well, it was only 5 of us that agreed or 4 of us didn't agree with it. It's the will and consensus of the board, which people have to understand. You sit back and then you go into a mode. I'm going to support this. I'm going to monitor it. I can ask questions to see how we're judging that this is working or it's not working and how we're going to course correct. But we certainly have to have a decorum that says, my opinion, I was allowed my opinion. I heard my opinion and it didn't get through. I couldn't build consensus with my fellow board members. And you sit back and you make sure you're running the district, you're making decisions that's best for everybody. There's a lot of times, and if fellow board members get elected or I don't get elected, you're going to understand that that's how it goes. It's the consensus of the board, not every individual. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yeah, I just want to mention that question number 3 was skipped.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
That's okay, but I'm going
Okay,
to
we'll
proceed
come
with
back
it.
to it. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Yes, I echo my other fellows here. The Board of Education is an organism with the bylaws and following a voting system. As such, if majority pass a measure, at that time, the Board of Education as an organism has decided. So based on that, as a board member, I will support the measure approved by the Board of Education as an organism. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go back to what was the third question that the candidates were sent.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
get a chance
Ms.
to
Mendez,
answer.
you're next. Sorry.
All right, it's okay. So I'm running with the knowledge that I know full and well I am going to disagree with some board members because I feel that that's what's supposed to happen, right? You're not just supposed to blindly agree with someone because, you know, they put something in a cute chart or PowerPoint and it has verbiage that only a few people understand. With that being said, my vote is always going to be, in my mind, how does this benefit my staff and students? And does this propose an unnecessary burden on my community? And if still with that, I am outnumbered, I am a professional always, and I will do what's in the best interest of for our community and our district as a whole.
Okay, thank you. And now we will go back to question 3. And this question was, what are your views on open data and transparency of information? What kinds of school district information should be made public? And if I am getting this right, I think we begin this time with Ms. Fenton.
Thank you. I think it's very important. Transparency is very important. I think the public needs to know where they're spending their tax dollars. However, there's a lot of legal privacy for student and staff, and that needs to be respected. So other transparencies as far as anything that doesn't fall under private, I think we should be 100% transparent because it is the taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Giordano.
Thank you. So first of all, we are fully transparent. That's a misnomer and a rumor and whatever everyone wants to say. It's always about more transparency. We hold 2 board meetings a month and we sit there in public and wait for the public to come out. And since 3 years ago, we started live streaming them. So we are fully transparent. Like Ms. Fenton said, there are certain things we cannot discuss publicly based upon the labor laws and different things. However, we are fully transparent. Our budget is fully transparent. It means we have it fully transparent. We talk about it in public transparent. And until we go into someone's household and have the board meetings there, it's up to our community to come and get that information. It's nice that everyone sit back on Facebook and type in their little, they think we're not being transparent, but that's not true. It's a falsity. The information is out there. It's just if you want to come and get it or not. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Based on the question, open data and transparency of information is critical for the public to have confidence in their elected members. Although it is important to note that some information are legally protected, such as individual right to the privacy and ongoing investigations. It is important to have established and disseminated to the public what data and or information is protected. That way, when situations arise, all are informed with no false speculations or expectations. Budgets, expenditures, opportunities for contract supplies and services, union negotiations shall be made public. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. I'm gonna echo what Dr. Giordano and Ms. Fenton said. Anything that has to do with personnel information or student information or anything that has to do with legality, absolutely, it's unethical to not keep that private. That being said, the board minutes are up in a timely fashion. Everything that we need to know about our district is on njdoe.gov if you want to know our scores, our report card, and the like. I feel that our community feels that that the board is not being transparent because they're not really understanding how the board works and what it is that they're doing. So I think if we had more meetings, maybe like open forums where they can come and have more than 3 minutes to kind of state what they're confused about or what they don't understand, will be viewed more ethically, and we won't have this shadow that we're not being transparent.
Thank you. Ms. Narcisse.
Hello. So I actually was one of those members of the public that was missing out on information, felt that, you know, maybe there was not enough transparency. So around April of 2021, I started attending every single board meeting, watching them online, reading agendas. And I came to realize that there was full transparency of information that was available. Our budgets, our presentations are all put up online, whether they're connected to the minutes of our meetings or agendas. Our district policy, there's actually 45 pages of policy listed on our website. District regulations are 9 pages listed on our website as well. So I think the word transparency seems to be a hot button topic being thrown around. It just seems to be a misunderstanding of what we're allowed to speak about. We can't speak about personnel matters. We can't speak about legal issues. And that seems to be a lot of what people have questions about. And that's why I really encourage a lot of the parents to come out and learn and listen, look through the website, watch the YouTube videos of our meetings to really understand a little bit more of what data and transparency is allowed to be learned and information is out there.
Thank you. For the next question, we're going to begin, I believe, with Dr. Giordano. And the question is, what is your position on shared services? What shared services would you like to see the district add or take away?
So for us, for Mount, we're one of the largest districts in Morris County. I think we're the 3rd largest district. We want to have other districts share their services with us. We want to take them on. So for instance, I'm just thinking outside the box, smaller districts that are, you know, closing down, like a Hapakon, K-12 district, but eventually they're low enrollment. We should look into a send-receive relationship with them. That would bring about $6 to $8 million to our district, just off the top of my head. We don't want to share a superintendent or a business administrator with other districts. It's just the districts are too big to do that. From a, you know, it's nice to say that smaller districts, that is more feasible. Larger districts like ours are not so feasible. But if we can connect with a smaller district and we can provide those services, like I just said about, you know, send-receive relationship, bringing students to our high school, that would be beneficial to all of us. Thank you.
Ms. Melendez-Canedo, same question.
Yes, this is a question that requires probably is too broad in terms of variety of services that the school district Mount Olive has at disposal. However, any possibility of shared needs or shared services needs a deep and responsible analysis to include in-source, outsource, pros, cons, benefits, and risks of the specific services to be considered at that time. Special education services provide, for example, to other towns. That is great. Not only from the humanities standpoint, but we are helping other neighbors towns with probably resources that they don't have. Transportation, no one is better than our own transportation system here in Mount Olive. That I should say no to share those kind of services because we have a lot of students here in Mount Olive. So, but every services will need to be analyzed.
Thank you. Ms. Mendez.
I agree with Luisa. It needs to be analyzed further, in my opinion. I think shared services are a great way to generate revenue, but we really need to have that documented so that we know exactly who is sharing what, and we can see whether or not this agreement is mutually beneficial, right? If we're the only one given and no one's giving back to us, that's just more of a burden on our community's pockets. So I would like to see this analyzed further and documented. Documentation for me is paramount, and it goes with our conversation earlier with regards to transparency.
And Ms. Narcisse.
As it pertains to shared services, this is something I've worked on in my field before. it all comes down to what is the financial benefit for each side of the party and what are the services that we're speaking about? Are we talking about the Somerset County Cooperative Pricing System that we already participate in? Or are we talking about the shared services we already participate in with our own municipality? Remember, our Board of Ed and a municipality are two different entities. And we already do participate in several shared services, but it comes down to what's the benefit for our students, what's the financial impact, and what putting our own staff first in terms of can they take care of the job or position that's being asked upon before we look at that. So it's a broad question. It's really going to come down to what is that individual agreement that we're looking at and what's the financial impact to our district first, and then our staff and our students.
And Ms. Fenton.
I'd like to ditto Ms. Narcisse. Exactly. It all depends on what the benefit is for us. If we have the revenue for it. But on the other hand, we do a lot of shared services. In fact, I did not realize that there are many schools that have board members for a K through 8, and then they have a whole another set of board members for high school. So we collectively do a lot of shared services within town. And if we could find more to make it work even better, I would applaud that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move into the questions that were not shared with the candidates in advance. And let me just make sure. I think this first question is going to go to you, Dr. Giordano. In an era of more limited financial resources and rising costs, what is your position on enlisting support from the taxpayers for bond issues or otherwise increasing public school spending?
So we're limited by a 2% cap that was imposed by former Governor Chris Christie. We absolutely at some point are going to have to go out for another referendum. We have a referendum for the middle school from 2000 coming due. That money's it's about $40 million. We already pay it on our tax bill. We're all taxpayers. The idea is to go out and say, hey, these are our needs now. We have an expanding town. We have need for more school classroom space. If we can pass this $40 million referendum again, it will not be an increase to the taxpayer. If we don't do it, it's about, I mean, I'm not a mathematical whiz, maybe $10 back a month to the local taxpayer. So I think it's a matter of, going out there and having people understand that we're limited to 2%. And then we have needs above those 2%. Electricity is above 2%, gas is above 2%, healthcare costs are above 2%. So we need to bond things. The township bonds a whole lot of things, and we're fine with that.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo. Same question. Do you want me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Sure. In an era of more limited financial resources and rising costs, what is your position on enlisting support from the taxpayers for bond issues or otherwise increasing public school spending?
Yes, I basically echo what Dr. Giordano says. Expenses always, especially on the school district and even the times that we are living, are going to be increasing every year, even the basic one. Therefore, and we are limited for a 2% cap. So it is important for the people of Annauli, for the community to understand and to present them what the expenses will be, for them to be access to that information. So when we go to them, they can understand and make a sound business decision if I support the bondage or not. But certainly they are necessary. Also utilizing a more effective procurement system for the school district. As some of the contract opportunities are not announced, there is no competitive in certain acquisition within the district that could help to utilize wisely the taxpayer money.
Thank you. Ms. Mendez.
So I echo what Dr. Giordano said. We do have that 2% cap, right? But I feel like there's plenty of costs that we can look at. For example, we have we're very top heavy in Mount Olive. We have tons of software where our children are plugged in consistently and constantly. So if we looked at that and we looked at all these softwares that are all doing the same thing and cut that and put it to the needs of our children, put it to the needs of our staff, put it to the needs of our community, I feel confident that we would stay within that 2% cap.
Thank you. Ms. Narcisse.
So to kind of piggyback off of everyone else, as we talk about this 2% cap, it's been in place since 2011 that Governor Christie put it in place around the same time that Chapter 78 in our contributions for the teachers' benefits actually came into play. Although we have that, we're a growing district. We're going to be looking at this debt coming off, right? And we need to look at renewing that. Should we need to build more buildings, put in more infrastructure? We have growing population here in the town. We're a unique situation compared to other municipalities where people are still coming out here. We're still building. And we also need to think about salaries. You have to guarantee, salaries of our teachers takes up the majority of our financial burden. I'm not looking to increase any of the taxpayers' dollars. Everyone is strapped right now, but I'm also looking to provide the best education to our students while balancing that. So that's a full budget financial spectrum that we have to consider and look at.
Thank you. And last but not least for this question, Ms. Fenton.
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback off of everyone. We do have the 2% cap. We do have very high taxes. I do believe we can look and see where we can make some small changes with software, education. Maybe we do need it, maybe we don't. And actually, that is one thing that we have been questioning. But with this referendum coming up, which is very important because we are very quickly growing school, I think it's important to know that we won't be raising taxes and hopefully maybe even keeping them the same or a little lower at some point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is we're going to begin with Ms. Melendez-Canedo, and that question is, what do you see as the role of the school board in determining implementation of mandated curriculum? And this is actually a two-part question. And the second part of it is, what is your position regarding the teaching of cursive penmanship in elementary grade levels?
Could you repeat the second part of the question?
So the second part of the question is, what is your position regarding the teaching of cursive penmanship in elementary level grades? And the first part of the question is broader. What do you see as the role of the school board in determining implementation of mandated curriculum?
Okay, for the first part of the question, New Jersey standards are not curriculum itself. The curriculum is developed by the school administrators and their experts within the school district. The role of the Board of Education is to receive the presentation of the school administration of that curriculum that was developed by experts in the area, and then to vote in the implementation or not on that curriculum. Of course, it is expected that the Board of Education has considered also parents' participation in the development of that curriculum, but the board votes for implement, not to develop that curriculum. In the second part of the question, for the cursive penmanship in these times and era, for me, really, I think the student could spend as long as it's handwriting and some way of written communication that the school could develop, that would be good.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Mendez.
So part of me wants to say no to handwriting because that's one of the things that I can write and my students don't know what I'm saying to the other person, but that's completely selfish. I echo what Luisa says, we don't make the curriculum. I really believe in having parental choice, having the parents know what's going on, having them be all in with it. And if they have questions, coming to us and us kind of bridging that gap. That's what I see as the role of the Board of Education, is kind of putting that bridge between the parents, the educators, and the board, right? And for all of us to kind of be together on that bridge and like not light it on fire. And
Ms. Narcisse.
So I happen to be one of the members that sits on the Curriculum and Technology Committee. So I get to see firsthand how wonderful our staff and our assistant superintendent present the curriculum material that's being implemented and asked to be implemented. We get to review it and we get to ask questions and we get to vote on it in open session. But I also do believe that the parents have an input, and we do listen to many of them. And I encourage them to come to the board meetings and share what their thoughts and feelings are on curriculum. I've seen parents come and meet with the superintendent on their feelings with regards to the curriculum. As it comes to cursive writing, I do believe that what we forget is there is study that connects the brain-hand initiative to learning. Some students are visual, some are auditory learners, some are better on a computer. I happen to be someone that cursive writing is that reinforcement for the brain connectivity to the hand. So I would love to see back in the classroom for those students that learn in that manner.
Thank you. Ms. Fenton.
Thank you. Mandated curriculum. I'm also have a seat on the curriculum and technology, and it is very nice to be able to review everything and ask questions and make sure we like it, make sure we don't, if we don't like it, to change it. But equally important is a parent's role on how their children feel about things. Every family has different opinions, and I do really encourage that you come out and you voice those opinions, because we're only a few people with our opinions and what we might think is excellent. There might be dozens of people not liking it. So we need to hear that too. So that's kind of where I am. I like everybody involved. As far as cursive, I think it's sad that people can't sign their checks anymore. So yes, I would love to see cursive back.
And finally, Dr. Giordano.
Thank you. Just so we all understand, there's no mandated curriculum. The state DOE mandates standards. They're educational standards. The districts then write the curriculum based upon those standards. I appreciate parents' input and I like it, but those are standards we have to teach. That's through the NJDOE. And if parents don't like it, then they can vote for people in office at the state level that want to mirror what they want from the NJDOE. So, there are things we have to teach. I'm not a big believer that we as a school district, and I'm an educator, that has to teach not to bully kids, but because of Mallory's law, we have to, because we as parents are failing. As a society, we are failing. So we have to have those things in place. Unfortunately, we have to teach our kids this, because we as parents are in the wrong. As far as cursive goes, there's other things we need to teach our kids, especially today's day and age, as they are way more advanced than we are. They are learning things, or things are being taught to them, or their innovations are coming out that we have no idea even how to teach these kids. And they live on their phones, whether we like it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. The next round of questions, we're going to begin with Ms. Mendez. And this is actually a somewhat related question. And it's, do you have specific concerns with the new health curriculum? If so, and again, I'm reading the questions as they were worded. We've been corrected about the use of curriculum in this context. So probably means standards. If so, how should the district address them?
I'm sorry, Ms. Fisher, you faded out there and I didn't get to hear the whole question. Do you mind repeating?
I'm sorry, sure. It's, do you have specific concerns with, and this is how the question was written, do you have specific concerns with the new health curriculum? And I'm guessing that you might want to say standards instead. If so, how should the district address them?
I do not have concerns about the standard because it's not new. It's been pushed to the spotlight for some reason. I'm not really sure why. but it's been implemented for the past 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. It's based on research. It's based on the safety of our children. It helps to prevent child abuse. It helps to protect our LGBTQIA community. But you know what? If like I said, parent choice is important. And if this is something that you don't want for your child, to know the correct name for these things, you want to teach them, then you should have the option to opt out for that. And I fully support that. I support you if you want to opt in, and I fully support you if you want to opt out. But I, for one, trust the teachers, trust the research, and don't want to see any more children fall victim to predators.
Thank you. Ms. Narcisse.
As it pertains to the new health curriculum, health standards, it's been the biggest hot topic. I think there's been a lot of misinformation floating around, especially out on the social media sites. As it pertains to our district, I do believe that the manner in which we're approaching it is we've engaged our teachers, we've engaged our staff, our assistant superintendent has been reviewing it several times with our curriculum and technology group. We have asked about the option of parent input. We have looked at the opportunity and will be offering the opportunity for the parent opt-out for the sensitive topics that they're not comfortable with, which I believe engages the parents. It gives them that choice of what they want their children to be discussing in the classroom. And I believe in Mount Olive, we're a district where the parents are very involved with their children at home and the conversations are happening there. The curriculum that's being presented, or the standards, we've taken what is minimally required, and we were looking to implement that and offering the parent universities to explain to the parents how it's going to be offered.
Thank you. Ms. Fenton.
I'm so sorry, my computer just glitched. As far as the health curriculum or health standards, we are working very hard on what is appropriate for each grade level. I do believe that it's good to have. We have had this for several years, but I do know that a lot of parents are very concerned. And one analogy I'd like to say is you don't give kindergarten through 5th grade a calculus class. So we keep that in the high school because that's what they can grasp. So I think what we're really striving for is age appropriate. And I think we're doing a very good job about it. So I am not really that worried about it. I am very happy that all the parents will be invited to hear which class is which and will be able to opt out. Thank you.
And Dr. Giordano?
Thank you. So first of all, those standards that everyone's making a big hullabaloo about have already been there, right? So they've already been teaching those standards. What the state did was if you will, reconfigure to what grade level is going to be taught in what areas. So a misnomer, again, politics are terrible in education, because that's what we all think we know everything about. But they were already there. Whether we taught them or not is a different situation. So I'm not too concerned about it. It's something we've always done. Parents have an ability to opt out like they do in biology. You don't have to dissect a pig or whatever it was when I was in school as an old man. So I'm not too concerned about all those things when it comes to opting out the standards. If parents want to do that, that's fine. But let's call it what it is. We were already teaching that, and it's just become a hot topic now.
Ms. Melendez-Canedo?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Do you have specific concerns with the new health curriculum, or I think probably more correctly standards? If so, how should the district address them?
Yes, I have no concerns with the standard. The standards provide a blueprint for curriculum development, instruction, assessment, and they reflect of the latest research. Also, the school district of Mount Olive has a great group of professionals who has invested their time to develop the curriculum based on the standards, which I echo Mr. Giordano. What they did was that the age-appropriate curriculum. That curriculum has been taught forever. My son is 28, and I remember when I have to sign if I had wanted to opt out for the health class that they were going to teach conceptions and body parts and everything in 5th grade. My daughters also. So that's not something new. I think politics has taken this out of proportion.
Thank you. For the next round of questions, we're going to begin with Ms. Narcisse. And the question is, does the district do an adequate job of communicating information to the public? And this is a sort of multi-part question. Are there adequate avenues for meaningful dialogue? And what do you think could be done to improve communication?
So we happen to be a district that, if anybody watches our parent universities, our district, our staff, our administration often shares all the information, on a monthly basis, whether it be our superintendent, whether it be our director of secondary ed, or our assistant superintendent. I think we do above and beyond an adequate job of sharing information with the public. I think they just need to know where to find it or to engage in it. The parents get newsletters on a weekly basis coming from their schools. And I think that in order to hear meaningful dialogue, I think the parents need to come to the board meetings, and we don't, restrict them at all. We let everyone have their time. We don't have a time limit. We ask for a respectful amount of time. So I just think it's about getting the ability to know where the information is and engaging that way. And I think we do above and beyond adequate, phenomenal job with that.
Thank you, Ms. Fenton.
Thank you. I'm going to ditto what Ms. Narcisse said. With everything we have going out in communication, I think we are above average in that department. I do realize that a lot of people do not know where to find that, and I implore you to email us and ask us questions if you don't know it. And also, going to the meetings, whether you have a little silly question or a big question, no question is too big or small. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what the public says. So yes, you can come out. We also are trying to get a little group together, a kind of a parent on parent, so we could have even more communication. So hopefully that'll be by the end of the year, we'll have that coming. Thank you.
Dr. Giordano.
Thank you. I do believe we go above and beyond. I think it's, as a society, a community, they have to take it upon themselves to be more actively involved and understand the information. They want us to come to their house and spoon feed them all the information. That's not going to happen in a township of 30,000 people. We have 2 board meetings a month open to the public. By the way, they're just to be held in public. They're not for the public. But we also stream them now, so people can sit at home and watch things. So we are fully transparent. Information is out there. I don't agree that it's on us as a board of ed member. That's on them. You need. If I don't like what's going on in the town council, I need to get the information. I'm not going to wait. They have meetings. I can get that information. So that bothers me a little bit. I don't agree with Ms. Fenton per se with our community parents group that we're doing on the Board of Ed. We do that. I sit there twice a month. That's our community answer. So I think we do above and beyond.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yes, I think the school district in information in general is good. A lot of the information, it is in the website, and people just need to look for it. However, in one area that the school district could improve is the transparency in the procurement and acquisition practices. There is, for example, in the last 2 meetings, there were questions from the public in how bidders were selected, and it was announced publicly, and the opportunity of contract was not announced publicly. So we can take advantage of that. We can be transparent in terms of acquisition practices, but everything else, activities, academically, board meetings, they are good. But in that area, that sounds to me like an opportunity to improve.
And Ms. Mendez.
So I think lately our board has been thrusted into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, right? I think that, yes, as a board, we have things that, well, they have things that they put up and minutes and the like, but we have to really think about our older residents who aren't really good with technology, our residents who can't make it to the board meetings, and as servants is what I would see myself as, being elected by the community. I would try my best to figure out how can I get you this information in a way that is in language you understand and in a form that is easily available to you. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, we're going to begin with Ms. Narcisse. And the question is, change of topics here. What are 3 qualities that you would seek in a prospective candidate for district superintendent?
So 3 qualities. One, it would be what is their knowledge of our district, not just of where they came from or their history, but what's the knowledge that they have of Mount Olive? We're unique, we're marauders for life. In terms of, I would also want to see a quality of a superintendent who's looking to move us forward, be, forward thinking, not just status quo. What are the new innovative ideas that are out there? How are we engaging the district, the board, the staff to move forward with those items? And I'd also look for a superintendent that has a history, a track record of being successful in a district. What are their accomplishments coming from another district? I've worked with lots of superintendents, interim superintendents, all across the state. What is the impact that they made where they were previously that they can bring that history here to Mount Olive?
Thank you. Ms. Fenton.
That's a tough one for me. Everything Ms. Narcisse said, but I do believe we have to, we would be looking for experience, knowledge of our school district, and how would they make our school system better? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Giordano.
Thank you. I think it's what we looked for when we hired our superintendent currently. For me, it was about special education, SEL, equity for all students and access for all students. We've lacked that, although our previous superintendent prior pulled us up from the bowels of being a horrible school district, with all due respect, to where we're at now. And then, looking at our subgroups and understanding where we need to move forward from. On top of that, it's about holding people accountable for their jobs. A great principal said to me once, a guy I admire, Bob Reese, holding people accountable is a way of caring for them. And so that's what we need to do. We need a superintendent that's going to hold people accountable for their jobs, that helps our students the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yes, I will say the record of expertise and knowledge that individual have, how and what the individual has to offer to our school district to improve, maintain what we have, improve, and go forward in the future. The knowledge of our school district and community, that's very important. And how he has shown high ethical standards for themselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
I didn't get a chance to answer.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You're next.
I'm 4'11". Maybe that's why you keep missing me. It's all right. So what I would look for is someone who will bring this focus back to our most precious commodity, and those are our children. I understand that we have things for SEL. I don't agree that they've been implemented to the best capacity that they can be implemented. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this bullying epidemic that we currently have across the board, right? I think that we need somebody that can unify us as a district. I think temperatures are very, very high, and we need somebody who does not join in that chaos, but lends their calm to that. I really would like to know, are you in it for our children? Do you know our teachers? How respectful are you going to be to our administrative staff? Are you going to listen to their input? We cannot keep passing things without hearing and listening to our teachers, because they are in the front lines, and this vilification of them really needs to stop. So I would want a superintendent that brings us together, lends his calm, and really respects our staff and students.
Thank you. So our next question, we're beginning with Ms. Narcisse. And the question is, describe your view of the roles of the school board and the superintendent. What is the ideal relationship between these two offices?
Sure. So the school board, actually, our job is to oversee and assist the superintendent in making sure that the district is actually running and administered properly. We don't dictate down past the superintendent. If I get situations brought to me by parents, I bring them to the superintendent to then direct that to his staff and the employees. It is not my job to run the district on the day-to-day basis. That is the role of the superintendent. The relationship between school board members and the superintendent, there's an open flow of communication. Oftentimes we'll ask questions of them. It's their job, though, to run the district. We are the policy setting hand of the district, the board. We don't run the district for the superintendent. That is his job to implement, or their job to implement those policies that we're handing out or overseeing or making decisions on.
Thank you. Ms. Fenton.
So it's really hard to piggyback Ms. Narcisse, because all her answers are exactly the way I would put it. But yes, our job is to discuss with the superintendent. The superintendent's job is to discuss with all the administrative and staff. But our sole job is to create policies, bring them forth, have discussions with our superintendent, and have our superintendent go forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Giordano.
Please repeat the question.
Yes. Describe your views of the role of the school board and the superintendent. What is the ideal relationship between these two offices?
So the school board is to make policy that then the superintendent, the only person a board of ed can hire in the entire school district is the superintendent. It's to hire that superintendent to then we make policy and have that superintendent enact those policies. For the past 7 years, our board's gone away from that. Our board members seem to think they're running the district, or certain members of them. We need to get away from that. We sit back and we make policy based upon the superintendent. A great role of a superintendent's main job is to manage his board or her board, right? Build consensus. Not every board member is going to get what they want. It's to build consensus. You want 6 to 7 votes to pass things, and you want to line it up to our strategic plan moving forward. So it's about collaboration, working with each other. The problem is when board members think they know more than the superintendent. So it's got to be a collaborative approach.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yes, hi. The role of the board is to develop policy and to approve policy and handle to the superintendent. The superintendent, in their part, they should implement that policy, and the board is going to oversee the superintendent execution. The role, the partnership between them, even when the board oversight the superintendent execution, it should be an environment of collaboration for the benefit of the school district and good relationship for all the parts and the benefit of the students.
Thank you. Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. So the superintendent is our employee. Like Dr. Giordano said, he is the one person that we interview and we hire, right? So the role of the Board of Education for me is to hold that superintendent accountable, hold him responsible. If there's something that parents in droves are coming out or administrators in droves are coming out, listen to them and hold him accountable. Hey, look, these people are not happy. What's going on? That is our role as a Board of Education. And my role there would be to listen to what the community is saying and be a go-between and represent the needs of those people who no one seems to be listening to.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to begin with Ms. Fenton. And the question is, how will you foster a spirit of collaboration between your colleagues? How will you strengthen the relationship between families and the district? So that's really a two-part question.
Well, so collaboration between colleagues, depending on how the relationship is, it can be many different things. If it's hostile, we have to do some mending. We have to get some programs in. If almost like a bonding period. As far as what was the second question? I'm sorry, the second part.
Yeah, no, there's a big question. The second part of it was how you strengthen the relationship between families and the district.
Okay, so families and district is open communication. I believe employees, especially teachers, which I think they do a fabulous job, should have open communication with the parents via email. I know these teachers work very hard, but the only way there could be trust and communication and openness is with proper communication on all levels. And we have to look at the negative sides and the positive sides and just make them work no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Giordano.
Please repeat the question.
Sure.
I just want to.
Yeah, and I just want to reassure everybody that the clock only starts when you've had a chance to respond. So, what issues, I'm sorry, how will you foster a spirit of collaboration between your colleagues is the first part, meaning board colleagues. And second part is how will you strengthen the relationship between families and the district?
So thank you. So a 15-year plus board member, 9 of those years board president, it's all about collaboration, right? We would not have been able to move the district from the time I got on the board of Ed in 2007 to now forward without that collaboration, right? So you build a trust. You're not always going to agree with your fellow board members, but I trust whether I like them or agree with them. And I don't like a lot of the board members or agree with them, but I trust that they're doing their jobs as board members, a committee, and not bringing their own personal vendettas into the committee work. I believe that now. I believe that then. I believe that now. So that's how you foster that. And from the community, you listen to people, right? You take everything everyone's going to say to you with a grain of salt. There's two sides to every story. You know, someone's going to tell you, a teacher's going to tell you they hate the administrator. The administrator is going to tell you they hate the superintendent. The parent's going to tell you they hate the administrator. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yes, and in order to for collaboration, it's very important in any kind of board or organization to build trust. And to build trust, it should be open communication channels between the members and an open and honest communication. So each member could know what the other member is thinking, and at the time you build that trust. You can agree or not agree, but you trust the person is putting in front of you the real thinking about the topic. For the families and community, the same, open and honest communication. Do not hide any hiding agendas. You have to be open and honest with the person and be consistent in your positions. So open communication is key.
Thank you. And Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. to foster a spirit of collaboration with colleagues, I'm going into this knowing that I'm going to disagree because it's not always rainbows and butterflies. That's life. That's what we teach our children, right? To work together, whether you agree with the person or not. I don't take anything personally. I don't run in cliques or cliches. I'm there to do a job, to listen to my community, to listen to my teachers, and do what is in the best interest of this community. With that being said, to strengthen relationships with families and with the district, be present, go to the events, listen to the teachers, celebrate them by name. Oh my goodness, Mrs. Mendez, because I don't want to mention anybody, did such an amazing lesson. You know, be present, let them know, listen, I support you and I think you're doing an amazing job and thank you so much. That's how I feel we should do it.
Thank you. And Ms. Narcisse.
As it pertains to fostering, our relationships and our roles with our colleagues on the board, as I tell my children, I can only be responsible and you can only be responsible for yourself. So hold yourself to the most ethical standard that you have. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree. But I also expect the same thing of my colleagues. And in order to foster communication, we all have to be open and also willing to take a step and say, maybe I wasn't right. I don't agree with that, but we can move forward and, push the district for what is best for the district. As it pertains to collaboration with the family, the community, I mean, I'm someone that shows up to every sporting event, to every robotics program. I shout them out at every meeting. They need to feel that they're seen and heard and they're acknowledged, engaging with the community and the families and letting them know you are their voice if they need to express themselves, if they feel that they're not heard.
Thank you. I'm afraid this is going to have to be our last question so that we have time for your closing statements. And Dr. Giordano, you'll be the first to address this question. And that is, what issues do you believe your district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? What changes would you recommend?
Thank you. So I certainly think the most important thing, which I will be recommending at the next board meeting, is we need to do equity audit on our class audits for high school and middle school students. What groups of students are missing out that we are pigeonholing into these buckets if we do in education, of special education, our students of color, our students of need, that we are missing. Our superintendent started equity task force 2 years ago, which is one of the best things we've ever done in this district. We move beyond that. It's the way we've always done it because we've done it that way and we know what we're doing. It's the best way to address the equity of our district and to meeting the needs of all of our students. And that's what it's about. So I think that is the most pivotal, important thing moving forward in this district.
Okay. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. What issues do you believe your district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? What changes would you recommend?
Okay, yes, Manali have a lot of different class offerings for the students. I think the offerings are fantastic. However, the accessibility of those classes to the students not necessarily is always open to everyone. So I think the accessibility to the different offerings, that it will be very important academically to do not prevent a student, for example, that has been an excellent record in mathematics, for example, to go to higher classes in mathematics or for a second track because there is no space for the offering for the student. He qualified, but there is no space. So that kind of is an opportunity to improve within the district because offerings are there, but not accessible to all.
Thank you. Ms. Mendez.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, and I'm going to say that we don't have anyone on the board currently that talks about our younger students. So I'm going to answer that question within the realm of our younger students. I really feel that our younger elementary K through 5th students spend way too much time plugged into their Chromebooks. I really feel that we need to get them off the computer. We need to allow our teachers the opportunity to assess our children. We have many different learning styles. Some children cannot and do not have the dexterity to be on a computer. And it's very frustrating when there's no instructions. I, for one, cannot stand Gigi the penguin. I'm going to say it here in public. It is very stressful for children when there's no instruction. And before we can, have them do well in STEAM and in the future, they really need that foundation first with critical thinking. They need to hands-on. They need to be able to say, okay, you don't have to take it on the computer. Why don't you write here? Why don't we talk? I don't understand why our teachers cannot assess our children and why we have all this software.
Thank you. Ms. Narcisse.
Sure. So at the moment, we're coming out of COVID, and one of the things that we're having to look at and we're studying right now is the loss of learning for our students. So as we're looking at that data, we need to reevaluate what our academic needs are. And that's going from the pre-K program all the way up to our seniors, in the high school. And I think that we need to reevaluate the true equity and diversity of each of the classrooms and the access to those course of studies. As Dr. Giordano mentioned, our current superintendent started an equity and diversity task force. It's now pertains to parents and staff, and now we're looking to bring in students' viewpoints of how they are utilizing and having access and sitting in the classrooms, and what is it they're getting out of that, so that we do have the input back into the classrooms of what's truly needs to be offered and where we need to focus, whether it be our current tracking or if it needs to be reevaluated of our loss of learning for all of our students.
Thank you. Ms. Fenton.
So yeah, as far as our equity and diversity, we have modeled that for the last couple of years. I believe that is very important, especially coming out of COVID. There is not one way to learn. We cannot put specific students in a bucket. We need to be able to diverse them into whatever is possible for them and give them the highest of whatever their needs are, whether it's English, math, whatever. I really feel we need to start, or we have started, we need to keep going with what each individual child needs and not have to teach like a cookie cutter. Do what is best for each individual child.
Thank you. And thank everybody for bearing with us. It is almost 8:30, so we're going to go straight to our closing statements. And for these 1-minute closing statements, we're first going to hear from Ms. Mendez.
Thank you. Tonight's forum has really given the community an opportunity to make the best informed choice when voting. You can vote for more of the same and continue to have this division that we currently have, or you can choose to vote for someone who will bring change, transparency, integrity, progress, and dedication. The tone and professionalism in our board has taken us to a very dark place. And I feel that my background best suits me to bring calm to this current chaos and not join in it. I really feel that if any of this resonates with you, then you'll vote for me, Annette Mendez, first on the ballot and first for our children of Mount Olive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fenton, your closing statement.
Thank you. With my experiences and connections, I believe I can continue to work with the board to create a safe educational environment for our children and our staff. For those of you who know me, I am only a phone call or a message away. And I hope my given track record will support you for letting me run in another 3-year seat. I am a very even-keeled person who is logical, and I always am looking for the facts. I believe in parent rights for appropriate age-based learning, acceptance and inclusion for all, understanding the needs of teachers and staff and working with them so they can provide the best educational experience for our children, and also advocating for the students, staff, and faculty on behalf of the Mount Olive residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Giordano, your closing statement.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank everyone in this forum. I appreciate all the views that were expressed here tonight. I'm hopeful this community will elect me one more time for the one-year seat. I do not believe, which my colleague, I'll call you colleague, Ms. Mendez, that we are divisive and fractured. I just don't agree with that. Believe it or not, our Board of Ed is not far off the way we think. We may not agree that the devil's in the details. But with that being said, there's a lot of things that Ms. Mendez, if you get elected over me, I will be a resource for you. I'll reach out and any way I can help you. And if you get elected to this Board of Ed, you will realize all the things you said tonight probably aren't true, because you're going to have to build relationships with other Board of Ed members. If not, you're going to go down 9-0, 8-1. You're not going to really get anything accomplished. So it's about building relationships. We're not that bad as people make us out to be. But I'm hopeful this community will stand by me for my 16 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez-Canedo.
Yes, as a board member, I would advocate to all students within the school district having the opportunity to develop up to the maximum extent of their abilities. The fiscal transparency is critical to have an effective budget based on the school district needs that will ensure our students will have the best attainable education. Furthermore, implementation of a strong and transparent acquisition process that guarantee the maximum benefits of competitive procurements and responsible spending of the taxpayer contribution. Every dollar matters. I feel strongly as a member of this community to do more, and given the opportunity to help to Mount Olive School District to maintain the good things, evolve with new technologies, overcome obstacles, identify and improve any areas in need, and be even better than what it is already. I believe that there is always a space to improve. I would love to use my talents and a skill set for the good and success of our students, parents, administration, community, and Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Narcisse.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you all for this forum. And thank you for letting our voices be heard and introducing us to the public in a visual setting. I want to express that, I'm the newest member of the board, and I do enjoy working with my colleagues. I don't think we are completely divisive. I do feel that all of our hearts are in the place of, the children. The children are our most, precious gift. And working with this district and this board and the superintendent moving it forward. I think each of the children deserves an equitable education. The parents and the guardians deserve a place to have their voices heard and their opinions heard. So I do encourage them to reach out to us and do come to the meetings. I believe that, our district is ever growing and there's much work to be done in terms of growing the district, potential buildings, looking at what that looks like, and the financial pieces that I believe that my tools, historically will bring. I'm someone that's, been around this district forever, volunteering in every activity. And I think parents know me. So I look forward for your vote this year.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the candidates for putting yourselves forward. And thank you to the audience. I'm sorry that we've gone so late, but obviously there are a lot of issues for your Board of Ed to be considering. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Megan.
Okay, thank you so much. We'd like to remind everybody to go out and cast your ballot this election. It's important every election. And thank you so much for your time. And we want to thank our candidates. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to end the forum now. And thank you again.